The unsettling reality is that people who spend long enough on Mars often discover that returning to Earth becomes dangerous because their bodies slowly rebuild themselves for a gentler world with far less downward pull. Be sure to keep watching until the end because I'm going to reveal the little-known radiation effect that quietly traps astronauts in a one-way future even before they realize it's happening. Just a moment, guys. Only 13% of subscribers know when we publish new videos. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because without it, you'll miss formats and documentaries you won't find anywhere else. Imagine the first days inside a ship, leaving everything familiar behind. The crew moves effortlessly through weightless corridors, brushing past handrails as if gravity were just a suggestion they'd chosen to ignore. It feels almost magical, and in that magic, an unnoticed shift begins. A traveler might laugh at how easily they can push themselves from one module to the next, but every effortless motion teaches the body a lesson. Strength is no longer required in the same way. Muscles that once carried the full load of Earth's pull start relaxing their duty. Bones, always adjusting themselves to meet the demands of daily life, register this new environment and quietly reduce the support they once considered essential. By the time the ship touches down on the red desert, these early adjustments have already taken hold. Life on the surface deepens them. A person steps onto the soil and moves with surprising lightness, lifting tools and equipment that would strain them back home. The sense of ease feels like an upgrade, but it's actually a sign that the body is now rewriting its expectations. The spine wakes up each morning with less compression. Leg muscles stop preparing for heavy loads they no longer encounter. The circulatory system grows accustomed to moving blood through a frame that doesn't challenge it the way Earth once did. These are not dramatic events. They unfold quietly, day after day, until the traveler starts to feel that this softer gravity is the world they were built for. This leads to a question that settles into the back of every long-stay mission. How long can someone live this way before returning becomes more than discomfort? It becomes a risk. Rehabilitation works when the absence is brief, but years in a lighter world encourage the body to commit fully to its new conditions. A person attempting to re-enter Earth's stronger pull might experience plummeting blood pressure when they try to stand, or bones that crack under forces they used to handle without thought. Muscles that once supported daily life could tremble under the weight of simply walking across a room. Equipment can help maintain strength, but it can't replicate the constant pressure Earth provides without effort. Radiation adds another layer to this transformation, one far less visible. Without Earth's protective shield, high-energy particles slip through tissue and disrupt the body's natural repair systems in ways that accumulate with every month away from home. These microscopic injuries don't announce themselves immediately, but over time they create vulnerabilities that become especially dangerous when returning to a heavier, more demanding environment. Mars dust compounds the problem by drifting into lungs, carrying minerals that can irritate tissues and linger long after exposure. Each of these changes nudges a traveler further away from the world they left, until the place they once called home becomes a landscape their body may no longer be able to endure. While the body quietly reshapes itself to match a lighter world, another trap forms around the people who make the journey. Every step of the return plan depends on machinery that must function perfectly in a place known for testing the limits of human engineering. Even before the crew arrives, their exit strategy sits alone on a distant planet, waiting in silence through storms, darkness, and freezing nights that no blueprint can fully predict. The first complication appears long before launch, because carrying enough fuel from Earth would make the mission impossibly heavy. The return trip relies on creating propellant on the Martian surface. The idea sounds straightforward. Capture carbon dioxide from the thin air, extract water ice from underground pockets, split them apart, and slowly stockpile the materials needed for liftoff. But each step depends on machines that have never operated for years in an environment where dust behaves like a living thing. The fine particles drift into joints, coat sensors, and slip through seals designed to withstand harsher grains. A single jammed component can halt the entire process, turning the return vehicle into a monument instead of a lifeline. Even if the machines perform perfectly, the vehicle intended to lift the crew off the surface faces its own trials. It must land years before the astronauts arrive, touching down without human oversight and surviving through conditions that shift dramatically with each season. The cold can make metals contract more than expected. Temperature cycles strain wiring and structural components. Even if one part warps or fractures, the craft becomes unusable. And with no second rocket waiting nearby, the crew's fate could hinge on a single weakened bolt buried within the structure. As these risks build, timing becomes just as unforgiving. Launch windows are dictated by the dance of the planets, and the opportunity to leave arrives only every couple of years. Missing that window isn't a matter of waiting a few days. It means extending the stay until the next alignment, living through harsh conditions using supplies never meant to last that long. Hey Curious Squad, before moving forward, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you never miss stories that peel back the curtain on what missions like these truly face. Once the crew begins preparing for departure, another obstacle reveals itself. Any malfunction must be solved without immediate help from Earth, since messages take long minutes to travel across the void. If a piece of equipment fails during countdown, the delay prevents mission control from offering guidance fast enough to matter. The astronauts must diagnose and fix problems on their own, under pressure, using only the tools and spare components they brought with them. There is no warehouse of parts, no backup systems waiting in storage, no rescue ship on standby. Add to this the thin atmosphere that makes ascent extremely difficult. Engines must fire with precision to compensate for the lack of aerodynamic support. A slight miscalculation can send the vehicle off course, and without a thick blanket of air to stabilize the climb, there is no margin for clumsy corrections. With every technological requirement stacked so tightly, the return journey transforms from a planned routine into a delicate chain of events where each link must hold. On a world as unpredictable as Mars, that chain becomes one of the most fragile commitments a crew can rely on. As a crew settles into the routines of life on the Red Frontier, another force begins shaping their future, one with no machinery, no wires, and no warning lights. It begins with the strange quiet that settles over evenings. After the day's work, no city noise rises in the distance, no planes pass overhead, no soft hum of life beyond the walls, just a stillness that seems to listen. That quiet becomes the backdrop for every conversation, every shared meal, every small victory, and in that stillness, people start to change. The first transformation surfaces in the way these crews depend on each other. On Earth, support networks scatter across neighborhoods, cities, and countless relationships. On Mars, every piece of emotional stability lives inside a single habitat. If someone has a bad day, the only shoulders available for comfort are those sleeping a room away. If a system fails unexpectedly, the people who respond are the same ones who cook dinner, run experiments, or write reports. Over months, that level of closeness doesn't just build trust, it reshapes identity. A person who once felt like a visitor becomes woven into the fabric of a tiny community that relies on them, not abstractly, but in the most tangible ways possible. As that connection strengthens, an unexpected tension appears. Returning home doesn't represent comfort the way it once did. Earth begins to feel distant, not just in miles, but in meaning. Messages arrive late enough that emotions fade before replies arrive. Traditions back home continue without them. Friends move on. Landscapes change. Birthdays pass. Meanwhile, the colony develops its own customs. A shared joke whispered during maintenance checks, a ritual for marking the first sunlight after a storm, or a commemorative meal to honor a milestone in the greenhouse. These small traditions create a sense of belonging that Earth struggles to match. Eventually, something deeper settles in. The skills a person develops on the frontier feel sharper, more essential. A minor adjustment to a water line might save a week of resources. A clever change in power scheduling might protect the habitat during a long stretch of darkness. These experiences create a clarity of purpose that many never felt on Earth. The idea of leaving all that behind can feel like stepping away from a life that finally makes sense. That's when the ethical questions begin. A colony depends on every member. A single missing engineer, botanist, or medical specialist can tilt the entire structure into danger. Offering someone the chance to return could undermine the outpost's stability. Choosing to stay may be safer for the whole group, while choosing to leave could place others at risk. Those dilemmas grow heavier as the settlement matures, and the pull of responsibility starts competing with the pull of home. Over time, the planet itself becomes part of their story. The dust storms, the long silences, the improvised holidays, the inside jokes formed during tense moments, they all weave together into a memory that cannot exist anywhere else. A traveler who once viewed Mars as a distant target begins to see it as the only place where their choices truly shape the world around them. If you were part of that small community, would you return to the planet that shaped your past or stay with the one that shaped your purpose? Let me know in the comments, and check out the video about the history of Mars on the playlist about it.